Hello and welcome to today's webinar by Philanthropia. Thank you for joining, and I'm really excited to have you all here and to be sharing some more details about proposal writing with you. So today's webinar will be recorded, so you have the opportunity to watch it again if you miss anything, or if you join midway through, or if you want to share the recording with your colleagues or friends, you can do so afterwards. We will also share the presentation, and you have the opportunity to ask me questions. You've already seen the chat, so you can join or you can network with each other, talk to each other in the chat box. If you have questions for me, maybe you can use the Q&A box and ask me questions there, because afterwards we will have time for questions and we can get back to that. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so that's the first question already. I can maybe already answer that. How to get the recording of the last 3 sessions. You should have received an email afterwards if you officially signed up for this class. But we seem to have issues with sign-ups this time, so I'm not 100% sure. If you haven't received anything, maybe you can send us an email at info@philanthropia.org again, and we'll send you the recording and the follow-up emails that have been going out. Otherwise, you should have received everything in the follow-up emails that you receive after every webinar. Well, if your email is new and that's not the one that you've signed up with, then of course it's going to be tricky for us to inform you. Then please sign up with your new email. Maybe just get in touch with us at info@philanthropia.org. Okay, but I think we can get started. And I will start sharing my screen. And again, if you have questions from me at the end, please use the Q&A box. And it's going to be much easier for me to find them in the end. So today we will talk about proposal writing, the role of the proposal in the fundraising cycle, to let you know again, to make clear why proposal writing is so important, why it is needed, and what the role does the proposal play, who should be involved, etc. Just a couple of words about me. You already know me by now, I guess. My name is Eva, and I work with Philanthropia for many years now. I don't even exactly know how many years it is. And I have a PhD in geography. I graduated from the University of Kathmandu and Hamburg University in Germany, and I've been living in Nepal for quite a while, for 7 years. Now I've been back in Germany since 2019, but I've also worked in South America, mostly with grassroots and small NGOs in the field of fundraising and project development. So that is my background. Today we will talk about the question why proposal writing is so important. Then we will have a definition about what is proposal writing. We'll talk about who should be involved in the proposal writing process and what the difference between a concept note and a proposal is, just so that you all know that we're all on the same page when we start talking more about the details of proposal writing in the next webinars. So why is proposal writing so important? Well, with the proposal, organizations can distinguish themselves from the competition, because we will see on the next slides, the competition has become very, very high. There's many organizations out there that are competing for limited funding. So to write a proposal and to describe your project, to present your project in that way to potential supporters, is a way to distinguish yourself from others that work in the same field. So when your proposals are amazing, you have obviously much better chances of winning funding. But even before that, if you write proposals and if you write project plans in preparation for proposals, that can really help you to develop a project. Because if you, as we said last time when we talked about the project plan, whenever you write a project plan or then a proposal, you need to gather a lot of information, a lot of data about the project that you are proposing. You need information about the indicators, the budget, etc., all of that. So you need to go out and gather that information. And that really makes sure that your project is thought through, that you have a project that everybody can align with, that actually works. So you kind of move it from having an idea to having an actual project. Because at first, you just have the idea of something that you want to implement. And afterwards, you have an actual project with data where you know who needs to do what are the steps, what will be the timeline, etc. So that is something where proposal writing really helps you as well. And proposals can also be a communication tool for external and internal conversations. So you can use a lot of the parts of proposals for communication with not only potential donors and supporters, but also when you prepare communication materials to get in touch with individual donors or with members, with project participants, etc. You can use that as a communication tool. And for internal conversations equally, if you develop a project, you want to work on that, maybe you work within a bigger organization, not everybody knows exactly what you're doing, then a proposal or the step before that, a project plan, can be an amazing tool to make sure that everybody exactly knows what you want to do, what the steps are, who is responsible for what the budget is, etc. So they can be used as communication tools. So there's several uses of proposals besides only sending them out to receive money or to receive funding. Just as we were talking about the competition, there's many foundations out there where you can apply. So there's not only foundations where you can apply with, you can apply with institutional donors, so with official government donors, etc. And you can also apply with companies for corporate donations, etc. But if we just look at the number of foundations, we have, by now, it's more than 150,000 foundations in the European Union. In Germany alone, it's more than 25,000 foundations, and that number is growing very quickly. In the last couple of years, the number has grown over 5,000 foundations. Then in the United States, it's the same situation. We have 150,000 foundations. These numbers are a bit older, that are out there. Obviously, you cannot apply for funding with all of them. Some of them just fund their own specific projects. Some are just working operatively, so they have their own institutions they run, their own organizations they want to support. But many of them do accept proposals and fund outside of their own work. And even if you look at the Asia Pacific region, there's more than 50,000 foundations. So often when we talk about fundraising, people only think about Europe and the US as potential partners, potential donors. But even when you look in your area, you will find many potential supporters, many foundations that work there. Because even in countries that we might think of as poor countries at first, there's many wealthy people who often really want to support the people in their country, their communities, often the community they came from. So that plays an important role. So you really have to kind of open up your research of potential partners to include local and regional ones as well. So you see there's many foundations, so there's a lot of opportunity out there. Not all of them, but many of them do accept proposals and would fund outside projects. So at first it looks like, well, there's so much opportunity, so why is the proposal so important? Well, if you look at the competition, you will see that the competition is also growing every year and constantly. So if you look at the US alone, there's 1.6 million charities, NGOs. Many of them do not work internationally, so obviously not all of them compete with you for funding, but they all exist. India is, I think, the country with the highest density of NGOs to inhabitants. There's 3.4 million NGOs in India. Many of them are not operating. Many of them are not working internationally. Again, they won't all be competing with you, but they are out there and they are potential competition for you. And in the UK, there's almost 70,000 charities that also look for funding and are searching for opportunities for their projects. So there's a lot of other NGOs that also are looking for funding opportunities. And the thing is, with the internet, as great as it is, because it gives information to everyone, it gives great opportunity to everyone, it also means that everyone has access to all this information. Everybody can take courses and learn how to write great proposals. Everybody can find those calls for applications that were maybe very well hidden in the past. And everybody has all this access to information. So yeah, the competition is becoming fiercer and much more tight. And to be successful and to still be able to win grants and to work with different donors, your proposals and your entire fundraising process really has to become more professional than it was maybe needed 20 years ago. So that, again, speaks to the importance of writing amazing proposals that really convince donors and that are different from the proposals of all the other NGOs that also send them in, so that you are able to distinguish yourself, that you are able to show that your work is super special and that you really, really deserve the support. So a quote that I really, really like is this one. It says it's better to be a proactive fundraiser rather than a reactive grant seeker. So instead of just waiting for things to happen to you, you should go out and kind of design the process for yourself and for your organization. So instead of just waiting for calls for proposals, waiting for opportunities to come your way, it's always better if you go out and proactively look for opportunities that might exist and apply for them. This happens when you write project plans, like we discussed last time, because that way you kind of set your own agenda. You already set your own priorities, and you've already made sure that that you are planning the projects that are really great for the communities you want to work with, and that set the priorities that you think are important. But obviously, the same goes for proposal writing. If you are able to write great proposals, and if you have the knowledge to put that into practice, then you will convince more donors and proactively will make them maybe change their priorities, change the way they look at things, and change their funding policies and their funding principles. So being proactive, being able to write amazing proposals that obviously answer to what donors want to see, but also understand how to set your own agenda, how to set your own priorities, is key to be successful in this field. Proposals also help you to plan strategically. We've talked about this a bit when we talked about the project plan. If you don't know where you want to move with your organization, it's super difficult to set up a strategy and to set up specific steps to actually get there. So if you write a proposal or a project plan first and then develop this into a proposal, and you understand very well what your funding needs are, what kind of projects you want to implement, which direction you want to move in, etc. That will really help you to be able to write a better strategy and to plan strategically, to set up the proposals in a way that you will get the things that you feel like you need to be able to implement your strategy, instead of just receiving things that somebody else has decided upon. So writing a proposal, planning everything out, understanding what you need to implement your projects, applying for that, lobbying donors to actually offer is particularly that thing that you need, be it financial assistance, different kind of assistance, whatever it might be. That really helps you to implement a strategy, have a strategic approach to this, and that will then lead to a sustainable success for your organization. So who should be involved in writing a proposal? That is a very common question that we often get in these webinars, or when we talk to people. Who should be involved? Who should be on the team? So first of all, it is important to understand that it should be a team effort, because many times one person doesn't even have all the necessary information that you need to write a proposal. So it should be a team effort. And on the team, usually you would have the fundraiser, the project manager, maybe an accountant, someone from the finance department, and field officers. And maybe even the board or other people that would have something to say to the strategic development of project work, of proposals. So obviously the fundraiser should be the person managing the process. That is crucial. That is the person, because somebody has to wear the hat, kind of. Somebody has to have the lead. So the fundraiser will probably say, well, we need this by then, this is the deadline, we need this information, we need these signatures, etc. So you need someone to organize the entire process, and usually that would be the fundraiser. But at the same time, fundraisers, especially if you have fundraisers who only do fundraising and not do project work as well, sometimes they don't know enough about the project to really fill it with content, because you will need a lot of background knowledge. You will need a lot of information to write a good proposal. So for that, you need the project manager to give you that information, or even the field officers, people who really have an in-depth knowledge and understanding of the project, and know what the money is needed for, what the steps are that have to be implemented. So you definitely need these people on board. And then if you can get someone from the finance department on board, even better. Often it's tricky to write the budget because, well, if you have a small project where you just need money to buy something, well, that's pretty straightforward. But especially if you have stuff involved, if you want to employ people, if there's taxes, etc., things become very, very complicated very quickly. So then it's always great to have an accountant on board who can help you with all these steps, who can tell you what you have to include, who can tell you where there might be issues, there might be problems on the way to get there. So if you can include an accountant in the team, that's even better. And especially to kind of look at your budget before you want to submit. So to double, if not triple check your budget before you submit, so that there's no mistakes in that, because that's, again, there's one of the most common mistakes in proposal writing is mistakes in the budget, and that's never a good look. So you really, really want to avoid that. So yeah, it's a team effort with all these people on the team. Another very common question we get is, can we outsource proposal writing? Can we not just hire someone to write the proposals for us? And here also, we think that's not the best idea, because as we will see, you need to give input anyways. So the project managers, the people who work in the projects, have to give all the information anyways. So in those cases, you still have to spend the time. Maybe the fundraiser can support you with specific tasks, but people still have to spend the time and work on the project, work on the proposal with the fundraiser. And the other thing is, if you hire a fundraiser from outside, you always have to pay them. And you will have to write another proposal later. So this is a skill that you would need within your organization, again and again and again. But if you hire a fundraiser, then you have to spend money every time again to develop a proposal. But if you spend that money on actually training your staff, training team members to learn how to do this, to learn how to write their own proposals, well, that we would say is a good investment in the capacity of your own organization, the capacity of your team, and then they can tackle this task themselves in the future. And yeah, again, that leads to long-term sustainable success. The first step is often, or something we recommend as a very first step, is to create something called an institutional memory. That's a very easy step, but it's great if you plan on writing more proposals than just one. It's a folder, a place where you save everything that is connected to fundraising. So it's a database of old proposals, for example. It could be a shared folder in the Dropbox if you use that, or on the server of your organization where everybody has access, where you save all important documents. So first of all old proposals, because you don't have to start from zero, from scratch, every single time you want to write a proposal. Oftentimes you can use and reuse old proposals, not copying them and sending exactly the same proposal over, but you reusing parts and bits of it. Some things will not change that quickly, and some things can be used for different donors. Obviously, the whole thing has to be adjusted, but again, you can use it as a blueprint. But often we see that if the team changes, if there's a new fundraiser, someone else on the team, that the old proposals don't get saved in one spot. So every single person starts from scratch again. To avoid that, you should have this institutional memory folder. You can also save other important documents in this folder. So for example, your registration document, so that whenever somebody has to send a proposal, they know where to find all that information, because that often is a problem. Or where you can save important signatures to just put them on the new documents, like a digital signature of your board members, of your CEO, whatever the structure of your organization might be. So save all of these important documents in one place. You can also save the donor research file that we've talked about last time briefly when we talked about the cycle. But you can, if you want to learn more about that, you can check out our free webinars on that topic. The donor research file, where you save the list of donors you want to contact, could be saved there. The networking file, where you note who talked to whom, who knows whom, which contacts are available to our organization, etc. All of that can be shared and can be stored in that institutional memory folder, and then be accessed whenever you want to write a new proposal. And then again, you can use the former proposals as a blueprint, as a base for new ones. That way you don't have to start from scratch every single time, and it will save you a lot of time and a lot of energy. Sometimes you will also realize, if you look at that folder, if you start new at an organization, maybe there have been proposals already sent to that particular donor. Maybe there was feedback, maybe there was information that you can reuse, and that will tell you something important for the future. And for that, this folder really is crucial. So now we get to the overview of the grant cycle again. We've talked about this in the first webinar of this masterclass. This is a very simplified one, but there's basically those 3 steps where you find a donor through the research process, you engage with them, and then you get to the application stage. Then you think about sending them something. So the question is, what should you send them? When should you send it? And how can you be successful here in this stage? So that's what we'll talk about a little bit in the next couple of minutes. So when is the right time to send a proposal? That's a question people often ask themselves. There's not always one correct time. There's a couple of answers to this. But what is crucial to know is that you do need to know the donor. You need to ideally engage with them, network with them to get to that information, to get to the point where you actually know what the right time is and also what kind of document you should send. So it's easy when there's a call for proposals. When there's an open call, when you have documents that ask you to send something over, then you know, okay, the right time to send a proposal is when the deadline is, whenever the deadline is. And that is the easiest case, obviously. But then sometimes you have situations where there's no open call, where you can send a proposal anytime, or even situations where there's no call at all, where the website says, please don't send us any unsolicited proposals. So in those cases, when is the right time to send a proposal? Well, again, here you need to understand the donor, you need to have talked to the donor, and understand when they are ready to receive your proposal. Often they will invite you to send a proposal if you've networked with them, if you've talked to them, and they think your work, what you're doing, the input that you can give is very interesting. They will invite you to send a proposal at some point. Sometimes they will also invite you to send something very different. But usually you get to the point where after networking with somebody, talking to people at that office, you reach the point where you can actually send a proposal, where you can actually send a concept note, an expression of interest, and they are ready for that. It's super important that you only send it after networking with a potential donor, after going through that process, because if you send a proposal too early, if you send it right away, if that's the first form of reaching out for you, then your proposal will probably be rejected or not even read, because then they are not ready to receive a proposal yet. So for that, you can use the donor intelligence that you have collected throughout the last time frame that you were interacting with that donor. So usually, again, the parts of the fundraising cycle are research and then networking before you send anything over. So during the research, you really try to use all the sources online, etc., that you can find to understand what the donor wants, and to understand on a deeper level what they want to see in a proposal. And then you network with them, ideally. Obviously, that's not always possible, but often you get the chance to talk to them, to have a meeting, to have a call. And during that time span, during those talks, you should be able to gather knowledge and to understand much better what they want to see in proposals. For those conversations, we always recommend to listen more than you talk, because you should ask questions, try to find out about them, about the donor, about their priorities, etc. And that will then really help you to be able to tailor your proposal to the donor's requirements. During that time span, you can also find out if a call is competitive. So you can assess your chances, because sometimes if you find out that a global call is super competitive, if you see that it has been shared all around the world and on different networks, etc. So you can expect the competition to be fierce. You might also decide maybe not to apply with this call for proposals. Often it's better to really to network with donors, to get a personal connection with them, and to then get to the point where you hopefully get invited to send over a proposal instead of having to compete with all these other people in an open call. So all this information that you've gained, that you've attained throughout the process, you use when deciding when you want to send a proposal, if you want to send a proposal, and what kind of document you want to send over. So here we have the difference between a concept note and a full proposal. So maybe you've seen that. I'm sure you've seen that already. Sometimes a concept note is requested, sometimes a full proposal, sometimes even smaller things. Sometimes they ask for a letter of interest or an expression of interest in those calls. So what is the actual difference? It's important to understand that a concept note is not necessarily just a smaller proposal with less information. Oftentimes, the concept note still focuses on different things and focuses on different parts of the proposal or the project plan. There's two different kinds of concept notes. We'll talk about that in a bit, starting with the definitions. What is a proposal? Well, the project proposal is the document that should entail all the information needed for someone to decide if your project is worthwhile to implement. So you basically propose your project with those documents to a potential donor and ask for funding, ask for support for whatever it might be that you need in this case. It's very well, it's not similar, but it's, if you think of it as like in terms of a marriage proposal, it's also similar. In that case, you propose to someone to enter a partnership, and that is the same with the project proposal, because the relationship between a grantee and a donor, well, it's not a marriage, but it should be a partnership. You should be willing and able to work with that donor for a while. They will also be looking for a good partner to achieve their mission, to achieve their vision. And so all of that should be explained, or your ability to be that should be explained in the proposal, so that they can absolutely understand your project, but they can also understand your ability to be a good partner and to be a long-term partner. And what is a concept note? In comparison to that, we can say a concept note is maybe the shortest expression of a project idea given on paper to a donor in this case. It's generally used in the first instance when proposing a project to a donor. But again, it's not always just a shorter form of a proposal. Oftentimes it focuses on different parts, it has different rules, and it also has a different purpose, if you want to put it that way. Many donors use a two-phase process where at first, if it's an open call, they only ask for a concept note, and then they shortlist a couple of projects, and then only they ask for a full proposal. For example, the European Commission does this. Many foundations do that first they ask you to send something like an expression of interest, a very short description of your project, or a concept note. Sometimes they even call it that directly. And then only the projects that fit well, that they like, that they understand, and that they feel like would be a good fit for them are invited to actually send a full proposal. The good thing about this is that sending a full proposal or fletching out a full proposal is a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It's very, very resource intensive. So if a donor decides very quickly that you are not a good fit, that you don't have a chance at all, it's better for you if they can tell you right off the bat, and if they can immediately let you know, well, this is not a good fit, so you don't have to bother, you don't have to spend more time. So it saves you and the donor a lot of time and energy if they let you know after the concept note, after a first expression of interest. So that is the main reason behind this. Often when there's very competitive calls that are published far and wide, donors receive a very high number of proposals or concept notes. In that case, it can be into the thousands. So again, they are also limiting their own workload by just asking for concept notes in the first stage, by just asking for something small. Usually in those cases, the donor gives very similar guidelines to when they request proposals. So you will have a full document that asks or gives you specific rules that you have to follow to send in that concept note. You have to be very specific, follow those guidelines, and just do what the donor asks you. You can even use the same headings, etc. Really follow their structure, because that is what they want to see in those cases. But then there's also the time or the opportunity when you can use a concept note to reach out for the first time. So when in the donor networking course or in the donor networking part, we talk about how important it is to reach out to donors, to converse with them, to develop a relationship with them. And when you do that, a concept note can be a good vehicle to reach out. Well, it's never the first thing that you should send out. First, you have to have a conversation. You have to talk to them. You have to start a relationship with them. But then a concept note can be a great way to reach out and to explain what you're doing without filling 20 pages and having like a super specific funding request attached to it already. So in those cases where you would use the concept note just to reach out and to develop a relationship further, these would be the most important parts of a concept note. So the project summary, a very good description of what you want to do in the first couple of sentences, something very succinct, something to the point, that is relatively short. And then again, focusing on why the project matters. We talked about this a lot when we talked about the project plan. Explaining why the project matters in general, but also why it matters to the or why it should matter to the donor, to the potential donor, is crucial here, because this is something with which you reach out in the beginning. So they don't know you yet, you don't know them yet too much. So it's crucial that they understand how you can actually work together, how your work would be relevant for them. And this is where you can explain that. Obviously, you should also explain what your project is, but you can do that in the summary part, or you can add a small part later under the part where you explain why the project matters. But this is more important. The relevance part is usually more important, because if the potential donor does not understand the relevance of your project in general, but also for them specifically, for their mission, for their vision, etc., then why should they fund you? Then they will just not think about it twice. Because if they don't see it relevant, then they will just move on to the next concept note on their desk. And then usually when you send a concept note to reach out, there should be a call to action attached to that. That is also in that case also the rules that are also applied to a letter, to an email with what you want to reach out. So you need to ask for something. Often this can be a meeting, this could be a call, this could be a checkup, whatever. Nothing too big, nothing too unspecific. Sometimes, depending on where you are in the process of talking to them, this can also be a call for funding. But obviously not if this is the very first time that you reach out to a potential donor, then you shouldn't immediately say you want money, because first you kind of have to develop and work on the relationship. And then you need to include contact information as well, because sometimes when they want to get back to you and you don't have the contact information on the concept note, it gets printed out, gets handed around in the office, then you need contact information so that they can actually attach it to someone that they can call, that they can email, to arrange maybe a meeting, a call, whatever it might be. So how long should a concept note be? Those questions are very common. People ask us, how long should a proposal be? How long should a concept note be? There's not the one perfect answer, but specifically with the concept note, it should be a condensed form of the project. So the shorter, the better, because you really want to get through. Donors are super busy. They don't always have time to read everything. They don't always have time to spend a lot of time reading all your documents. So try to make it as short as possible, but as long as necessary. Obviously, you shouldn't leave anything crucial out. Usually a concept note is anywhere between 1 to 4 or 5 pages maximum. Again, depending on the purpose as well. So if you reach out for the first time, shorter is better. If there's guidelines attached to it and gives you 5 pages, then fill those 5 pages if you feel the need to do so, if you need that space to explain your project. But in general, try to keep it short. The same goes for proposals. Try to keep them as short as possible while being as long as necessary, obviously. Just filled pages is not an indicator for quality. The donors, they are often struck for time, so they don't have time to read 20 pages if the information on those 20 pages could have been condensed into 2 pages. That also doesn't reflect very well on your skills. And then you will actually get to the step where you can ask for funding. So that is the last step in this fundraising cycle that we talk about, in the grant cycle. You found donors, you network with them, and then you can actually apply and send them a proposal or send them a concept note or an expression of interest, whatever kind of document you realize that it is that they want to see in the end. So that's when you get to this stage of the process and are ready to send in your documents. Again, looking at all the competition that you have, at all the other NGOs, organizations, maybe even foundations themselves that can send in applications. It is crucial that once you get to this stage and you have engaged successfully, you have gotten to know the donor, you have collected all this intelligence, that you actually produce a quality application document, a quality document to address the potential donor, the potential partner that you want to enter into a relationship with, and that you send the best version of a proposal that you can produce within your means. Yeah, with that, we come to the end of the presentation part. Just wanted to let you know that we have all these courses that we offer at Philanthropia. If you want to learn more about specific aspects of this process. So we have general courses like fundraising, the 5 steps of fundraising, the 5 obstacles to success. We have courses like online fundraising or proposal writing or donor research, but then also very specific ones like creating logical frameworks or how to raise funds from USAID. Those parts are very specific and teach you valuable information if you want to further work in this field. So please check out what we have to offer at philanthropia.org. And because you joined today, you can get 35% off with the coupon code fundraise. So please take advantage of that if you were interested in taking any of the courses. We also have the donor database where we have 5,000 donor profiles available that you can search to find potential donors for your project. That is also super helpful. If you don't know where to start with your research, you can check that out. And I think it's free for a week. And then after that, you can move further and see if you want to buy a subscription or not. Thank you so much. Now we still have some time for questions. So let me look into the Q&A box and see if we do have some questions. And we jump back. Oh, I just realized I stopped the video during the webinar and I never turned it on again, but now I'm back here. So let's start with the questions. The first one is, with the advent of AI, what opportunities and challenges do you see in its use for proposal writing? Do donors see this as a threat? Do they require proof that AI was not used in proposal writing? Those are kind of 2 parts to the question. First, I want to talk about the opportunities and challenges maybe. So actually, I think there's a lot of opportunities in this for particularly for smaller NGOs, because there's already some applications that use AI to support you in writing a proposal. We actually had a webinar about this, about the use of AI. So maybe you can also check on our YouTube channel and look for that webinar and watch it, because we've included a couple of links there as well, about the uses of AI for this entire field. And you can check out that to see the links, because there's one chatbot kind of that leads you through the questions that you need to ask yourself and be able to answer to write a good proposal. And then you answer all those questions, it keeps asking you, and then it gives you like the first draft of a proposal in the end. And I think that, for example, is very helpful. Also for stuff like writing letters in a very informal tone or informal tone, whatever your kind of working relationship with the donor is a good help. Also spell check, tone check, all of these things are super helpful, and you can use AI like ChatGPT for that. I think it will move forward with that. So I think those are good chances. Also in the long run, like searching for opportunities can be done through AI. Also searching for data for the project background, all of that kind of stuff. I think what will probably happen soon, maybe it already happens, I haven't seen it, but I think it's going to happen soon, is the screening of applications. Like when in job applications, that already happens a lot, that AI screens your job application, and only the ones that that kind of fulfill the criteria get sent to the desk at all. So I think that is something that will happen. So that speaks to the importance of really ticking all the boxes of things that you're supposed to tick, and kind of fulfilling the eligibility criteria of donors, because that is what they will be checking for much more than in the past. So I think using the same vocabulary, using the same words, using the same buzzwords that you find in guidelines is going to become much more important, because AI can only check for those things. That is going to be going to play a bigger role in the future. And then the next part of the question was, do donors see this as a threat? I don't think at all. I mean, it's not, if you write a proposal, it's not like an essay, so you don't have to prove that you've written that yourself. So I don't think donors mind if you get help. Obviously, the facts, that everything has to be correct, so you have to double and triple check for that. Let me just copy this, sorry. It doesn't matter, so I don't think it's a threat for donors, because the facts still have to be correct. You still have to do the project work, and you still have to be able to show that what you are promising in a proposal is 100% correct. Then the next question is if the culture of a donor agency influences how it reviews proposals. I think to a degree, but I think it's more important when you talk about the networking. So how you would approach someone, how people will network with you, how people will answer to a specific request. Maybe that depends a bit on the culture. So for example, in the US, or in a country, we've had this webinar, which was very interesting, about Gulf donors from the Gulf region. And there it was super important that the highest ranking official of your organization would contact them, that it's always high profile, etc. But if you go to a country like Sweden or even the Netherlands, which is much more egalitarian, then it's more important that the people who actually do the work contact them, because they want to see that they are in good hands, that they are talking to someone who actually knows the facts, and not just someone high up the chain who has a title but not the actual connection to the work in the field. So I think it's much more important for those things concerning the networking process, not so much for the proposal per se, I would say. Maybe something like I don't know, in America, for example, they are very, very sticklers for typos, stuff like that. I think maybe English-spoken countries have less leeway for mistakes, but countries like in Germany, if you apply in English, then for the Germans, it's also their second language, so there might be a bit more understanding, but that's just me guessing. I don't think there's like very particular things here that you have to look out for. Then there's a question by Amy. Many foundations call for a concept note and then a full proposal. What do you suggest we put in a concept note of 1 to 2 pages to make the donor interested on us? I think if you just have that little space, you should really focus on the relevance to the donor, to show in very clear terms how you can help them to fulfill their own mission, to fulfill their own work, because they also have to answer to their own donors, they have to answer to their bosses, to their CEOs, their board, etc., and show how working with you would actually help to implement their own mission. And if you can show the relevance of your work, again, on the society level, so why your projects would have a huge relevance to solve problems that are actual problems for the society you live in, but also if you can show how relevant your work is to that particular donor, I think, and then you have the best chances, because you shouldn't, obviously you also have to explain what your project is supposed to be, so your action plan, but don't spend too much time on that, because if you have just 1 or 2 pages, what the donor needs to understand is how your work can actually help them as well. So here I always feel like it also helps if you use the same vocabulary. So if you really use the same words that they use. So if they say developing country instead of country of the South, then say developing country, because then again, it's easier for them to see what they want to do in your work. Or if they have a structure, specific headings in the guidelines, just use the same words, use the same headings. If they use goal and objective, then use goal and objective and not specific objective and overall objective. Just copy their language. That's a small trick that will make it even easier for them to see themselves in your work. So that's, I think, what I would focus on. Next question is, I always find finding donors and applying is easy, but engaging is challenging, even if it's the donor we have worked with before. What's the main points we need to be careful with to create a relationship? I think, especially if you have a working relationship, honesty is key. And we see that a lot, that sometimes people that have a grant and run into issues, that they don't share those issues because they feel like, oh, then maybe the donor will be angry with us, and maybe we'll lose funding if we say there's a problem, there's a roadblock. So they hide that. And then in the final report, it becomes clear that the project had issues, had challenges, but the donor was never informed. And that's just not a good look. So I think honesty, constant communication, letting the donor know what is happening is key, and also showing respect. We see that sometimes that absolutely not because out of a bad intention, but that people forget to invite the donor to great opening sessions, stuff like that. And obviously donors feel disrespected by that, or that you forget to include their logo on your website, that you don't let people know or the press know where the funding came from, etc. Sometimes donors can feel disrespected by that, and that's obviously also not the best for a good working relationship. So those things I think are key to have that that relationship, that working relationship that can then grow into a partnership and into a long-term sustainable partnership. I think that is very important. And in general, I think it's always a good idea to listen more than you talk. Obviously, if they ask you questions, well, then share. But in general, in those conversations, trying to understand what they want to achieve with their work, what they want to understand from you, etc. That is a good way to to get to know someone, and they will feel respected and they will feel seen as well. And that is the key to a good relationship. Can you explain? Oh, then there's a question by Tara. Sorry. She's also mentioning the ebook. So we have an ebook about proposal writing and this whole process that you can download. And I think that it can be very helpful as well. Can you explain more the difference between an LOI and the concept note? It's confusing. With a letter of interest or expression of interest sometimes and the concept note, some donors use the term interchangeably, so they want to do the same. Usually I would say letter of interest is even shorter. That's my understanding. But again, different people use those definitions in a different way as well. So if you're not sure what they want to see, then it's also a good thing to ask. Just ask them, what should we include here? How many pages? How much space do we have? But in general, I would say a letter of interest is even shorter, but should have a much clearer, even clearer call to action or a specific question, something that this ends up in, because it's a way to reach out. You're expressing interest in a working relationship, and then that should be tied to something very specific that you actually want from someone. Okay, thank you so much for taking part in today's session. We have another session tomorrow again about the parts of the proposal. So then we will talk about more about what goes into a proposal, what you should watch out for, what are important parts, etc. And I'm really looking forward to that one as well. Then later this week, we have the third part of the proposal process, which will be things you have to watch out for before you submit and proposal mistakes. And next week we have the course about the log frame and the sustainability plan, both really, really important topics as well. So I hope to see all of you in those webinars again. And yeah, hope you have a good start of the week. Thank you and bye-bye.